Okay, so first thing that I mentioned is setting up dead agent notifications. A dead agent notification is basically when a computer hasn't checked in with our server after a certain number of days. Sometimes it's useful to know when that happens. Obviously, if somebody's using a computer on a daily basis, that computer is checking in on a daily basis. It's providing data that's, the user is doing whatever they're doing. They're going to websites, they're going to programs, they're typing emails. That data is fed back to our server, and we host that data in the cloud. As it's doing that, it's obviously checking in with our server on a daily basis. And so what that means is that if a computer for some reason has stopped checking in with our server, and that can happen for a number of reasons, but it shouldn't happen without a specific reason. Well, in fact, it doesn't happen without a specific reason. So usually it is if there's a large operating system change. Many times it has to do with an antivirus change, whether it's a huge shift in program that you use for antivirus, or the antivirus does a major update. I mean, regular updates shouldn't kick the software off, so that's usually not it. But obviously if you change antivirus, those exclusions have to be put in place, or else it will quarantine the software. Once the software has been quarantined by antivirus and it stopped checking in with our server, it doesn't find its way back. It needs to be reinstalled. So I've come into this screen here, Settings, Downloads and Licensing. And the point of this is basically seeing license management. What computers have licenses? Well, here are my 6 computers. And then it shows you the last check-in time. These don't have check-in times. That's probably just not accurate for this being a test account. Normally, there's always going to be a last check-in time. So even if it was installed today and then never checked in again, it would show today's date. So what you'd want to see normally is a recent date. If it's up to date, then hey, you're good. They're using the computer. If it's an older date, but you know that computer's in use, well then, hey, it's probably stopped checking in. What we've done is we've allowed the process of getting notified when that happens to be automated. So hey, if it hasn't checked in with our server, in 4 or more days, I want a notification sent to me. This way, you won't go 2 months with a computer not producing data and say, hey, I thought this data was going to be there. No, as soon as it stops checking in, we're going to be able to keep an eye on it and get it reinstalled if necessary. Obviously, there was a reason why it got kicked off, so it's just being able to kind of monitor that process. So to do that, Settings, Account Information, and you have a couple different choices here. This is your contact info, hotkey sequence, company logo, website blocking redirection page, and agent check-in email notification. So this is your dead agent notification. You basically edit check-in notifications. So you're, 1, choosing who's receiving that email. It can be multiple people. And then 2, how many days is the threshold? You obviously don't want to set 1 day, because if somebody goes on a weekend and they're of course not going to be using the computer, when the computer's not turned on, it's not speaking to the server, and you'll be getting a notification even though the computer's just not in use. So that's probably not the best thing to do. I would probably suggest at least 3, maybe 4 days. Some of you might want to choose more depending on how the business is structured. So that's how you do that. And then you get an automated, notification saying, hey, this computer hasn't checked in. Does this make sense to me or not? If it does, no worries. If it not, let's get in there and find out why. Let's get it reinstalled if necessary. Reach out to myself, an account manager, somebody that can get you in touch with support right away. Get that thing reinstalled. Okay, next, creating alert word lists. Alert words are extremely useful. It's about, hey, when somebody types a specific word, even to the level of if that word appears on the screen, I want to get notified, or I want it to capture a screenshot. I suggest everybody has alert words. There's always useful ones to make, the most common being bad words or swear words, something like that. And then another very useful one, in my opinion, is job search words, people that are looking for work while you're employing them. Happens all the time. People are, going to recruiting sites and sending over their resume and any of the above. You want to know if they're doing that on company time. That's not a good thing. So that would be what I would suggest. Obviously, you can always put people's names in there if there's names of competitors or names of people in the company that they shouldn't be talking about or whatever it might be. You know, you can create those alert word lists. So to do that, settings, alert words. So to do that, basically what you're going to do is first add a category. You can see each of these categories have their own words over on the right here. These are all examples, obviously, but so to make your own category, you would first add a category. You'd call it, say, something, job search maybe, and then once you've built that category, you'd highlight it, and then you'd be able to add specific words to that category. To add a word, just same thing. Once you highlight it, then you can add a word. You can either add just a word. You can use our regular expression list, which is something that could be a credit card number, something that could be a social security number. You know, regex is, you know, a kind of commonly industry-based term about things that could appear to be, you know, a 9-digit number. This could be a social security number. And loose versus strict would be, you know, 9 numbers straight versus 9 numbers, but maybe with dashes, maybe with spaces, maybe with periods, whatever they might be. Credit card, same thing, 16 digits, or if it's an Amex, 13, and so on. The thing I want to make sure you guys know that's really useful here is that the two places that I had mentioned, swear words and then job search words, I have pre-built lists that we've built, and we can supply you with that list, and then you can just upload that list into your account. They both contain about 75 words each, and they are pretty accurate. And to do that, you just build the category just like you did before, and then when you add, instead of adding the word or an expression, you're going to upload a file, and then you're going to browse for that file. I will send you the files. They are CSV files. And then you just upload them, and then those words will be active in that list. The next thing you would do as far as capturing that data would be either to come to recording and blocking under settings and add an alert word screenshot. And you would choose, obviously, which of these categories you're looking at. And then you have the choice of whether it's typed or viewed or both. The one thing I'll say about viewed is that means the word appears somewhere on the screen. What you'll find is if you choose viewed, you'll have a lot of false positives. And the reason why is because that word appears somewhere in that page. That can be in the code of the page. That can be way down in the window so that technically it's not in the visible screen, but it's somewhere on that website page, maybe way down below where you can even scroll down to on your screen. So you'll have these screenshots that are captured, and you won't even see the word on there, and it's like, well, hey, where is it? Well, it's probably in the code of the page, or it's way down below. If you do just typed, it's going to be on the screen. They typed that word. It's on the screen. You can see what their intention was. So obviously, this is going to be much more specific. That's what I usually recommend doing. So that's capturing the info. How can I find out the second that it happens? Notifications, also under settings. To add notifications, you are basically going to click on Add, and then you have a couple different choices that you can kind of pick through here. Alert word categories, of course, the one we're talking about right now. You can also find out when somebody tries to visit a specific website category. Maybe it's an adult site, shopping site, time-wasting site, malicious site, whatever it might be. And the last one, user behavior frequency, which is something we'll talk about next. Alert word category, though, and let's say job search alert word. We'll name the report. This is where we would choose the job search category if we built it. Maybe we want to have this sent daily, but the most useful case would be if it's immediate, as soon as it happens. Is it covering all users? Is it covering just one group of users? Or you can even just cover one person. You add your email address, and just know that you can have multiple recipients there, and you finish and you're done. Now you're going to get notified as soon as that happens. So that's the alert word piece. So user behavior reporting, a newer type of report that we've built under dashboard reports. The point of user behavior reporting is to quantify the number of times that things happened, whether it's the number of keystrokes that take place, the number of webmails that are sent, the number of websites that are visited, the total number of Outlook emails sent or received. It allows you to understand how people behave throughout the day and compare the users to each other. So obviously with just one user, might not be a very valuable tool, although at least over time you'd be able to understand how their numbers stack up and, hey, was this person having a good day or a bad day? With multiple users, the value would be you can quickly see, well, hey, here's the average number of times this happened, and then here is somebody that stands way outside of that norm. And why? Why is that the case? Why are they sending so many more webmails than anybody else? But to do that, you're going to add a report. It's a custom report. It's this last one, daily user behavior report. We're going to call this daily user behavior report. Then you're choosing what you want on the report. So maybe it's how many blocked websites were visited per day. That might tell me who's trying to goof off the most. Did anybody visit this type of website throughout the day? Total websites visited throughout the day, that could be useful. Webmail sent per day. If we don't have, maybe we use Outlook for work, and I want to know how many personal emails people are sending. Let's see, Outlook emails sent per day. Maybe that'll tell me how productive they are. Alert word screenshots for typed. Again, just like we talked about, that means that person is triggering a lot of screenshots in that space. Let's see, applications used per day could be useful. Maybe streaming media would be useful. Minutes spent using IM programs could be useful. Number of keystrokes typed per day could be useful. Anyway, you choose what you want. Who is it covering? Maybe everybody. This is a daily report, and it's an Excel spreadsheet. You add your email, you finish, and you're all set. I will show you what that looks like. Hopefully you guys can see that. That is what it looks like, and the point of that is that, again, you are seeing all of your users in a list. You're seeing the subject. You're seeing the average, and then who's the high and who's the low, and what does that mean? So for emails that contain alert words, why does John send twice the amount that the average is than anybody else? Why does John trigger so many emails? Maybe I want to look into the details of that email. Sent and received emails per day. John seems to be many more than the average as well. So maybe John's very productive and he just sends more emails, period, and that's why he has a higher average. I can look and see how many webmails he sends. That might be a lot. Might not matter. So again, this can be for you to determine whether this information is important. It's more just about showing the trends of your users and then being able to point out who's the anomaly, who stands out from the norm. Keystrokes, this might be an indicator of who's the most productive and also who's falling way short of the average, and so on. So that's the point of this report. It's a daily report. You get it once a day. It'll allow you to quickly see, hey, is there anything I should be aware of here? How to use website category blocking. So it's really the most straightforward version of blocking websites. It's what I recommend everybody does. You'd go to Settings, Recording and Blocking, which is going to be where you control, which features are turned on or off. Under blocked websites, obviously you'd first turn it on, and then you just click on Settings. And then the first option is to block by category. It's always the best way to do it. Again, we are constantly adding websites on a daily basis to this list. It's always going to be up to date with which sites fall into which place. But you choose which ones you want to block. And then keep in mind, you can always block these categories, and then say you want to block financial, but your company uses Fidelity.com to manage your guys' 401k. So your employees will need to get there to go on there from time to time. So I'm going to block these categories, and then I'm going to go to allowed websites and say, I want to block all of the blocked sites on my block list, except if they're in my list of allowed websites. So I would add Fidelity.com here. And if this was a real account, it would just appear right here. And then that's it. And just know that you can always whitelist an entire group of sites if you want to build a CSV and upload it. You can block everything except for the following websites as well. So if you just want them to have access to 5 websites, come here, block everything except for these following. And you build the site list. But yeah, category is very straightforward. If you ever wondered which website falls into which category, you can always test it. I don't know if this will allow me to. We can try ESPN.com. No, it doesn't. But it would say sports, basically. And then, of course, if you want to add a specific URL to block and it doesn't really fall into a category or you don't care about the rest of the category, then just add the specific URL right here. You can customize your block page eventually if you wanted to, but normally when they go to a block site, it's just going to show up as a 404 unknown website address screen. And then last was program blocking best practices. So program blocking, you know, being able to control what programs people can and can't use is important, especially if they are, you know, time-wasting based programs. To do that, you're doing it in the same space under settings. Recording and blocking, as you can see right under block websites, is block programs. So turn it on, click on settings. The first thing you need to do is build a schedule. So we're going to add a schedule profile. So we're going to add new. We're going to call this one, you know, workplace, work week or something like that. Because again, this is a schedule, and then you're going to attach programs to this schedule. So you choose how many days you want it to be covered. Maybe it's just Monday through Friday. And if it's 24 hours a day, that's fine. Or you can do 9 to 5, you know, whatever makes sense. Then you're going to add new. It'll show up here back under block programs by time. You're then choosing the schedule, which would drop down here if we built one. And you can either use our resource list, which is like a pre-built of the most common programs, so maybe a media player, maybe a, what else would people use? Maybe it's a browser, and you only want them to be able to use Firefox, block all these other browsers. Maybe it's just Chrome, block everything else. Maybe you want to block all other email programs aside from Outlook, etc. So yeah, that's the point there. And then again, you're applying this to this group of people. If you only want these settings for this group but not this group, then that's your settings for unassigned. When I click on group 1, which I can create by just adding a group, now group 1 has different settings. So for these people, maybe I don't block any programs. Maybe I don't block any websites. But for the first people, maybe I do a heavy restriction and only allow them to get to certain things. So yeah, so that's really how that would work. So that is the bulk of what we were going to cover today. Just some of the a few tips and tricks. You don't want to say that too fast. About how to kind of get more out of this data. How can I make a lot of this stuff automated, make sure that none of these computers are dropping off without my being aware of it. How can I understand what my people are spending time on a regular basis. I don't want to always have to log in. That's what we hear from customers, which makes perfect sense. You know, you guys are doing your own job, so why feel like you always have to log in to see what's going on? Let's get this information sent to you so that you can quickly review it and see if there's a problem. Hey, I can log in then, look into the details, better understand what's going on. Does anybody have any questions? Looks like, okay, cool. So I do see one question in here. How do I assign a name to computer? Dell 1 and Dell 2, I want to change my name. Okay, no worries. So the question is, how do you assign a name to a computer? So maybe the computer comes up as Dell 1 or Dell 2. Very easy to do. Basically, you're just going to go to Settings, Recording and Blocking. And then in the group that they are in, wherever that computer or user has been placed, then you click on Members on the far right here. And you can see a list here. This is a list of users. And then if you go all the way down, after users, there will be a list of licensed computers. So in this case, again, for the test drive account, there's only one licensed computer. So let's pretend that's the one we wanted to change. As you can see, the name of the computer is manager. Maybe that's not the person's name at all, and you want to change it to John's computer. You click Edit, and you're going to assign an alias or a nickname. We're going to call it John's computer. Then make sure to press Update. Now, when it reports, it will not report based on manager. It will report based on alias, John's computer. Just know that you can do the same thing for usernames. So if the username is not correct anymore, so I can see maybe John's computer, let's see, is that what we just put in there? Yeah. So that's what we just created, and then maybe it's not Adam Burris, so let's edit that one, same thing. I'm going to now edit his username from Adam Burris to John. Press Update. And we're good to go. So now Adam Burris is known as John. So yeah, so that's how you do that. You can obviously change names for both users and computer names. How do I create a report to be emailed for 3 separate individuals? Would I need to create 3 reports for web usage? So that's a great question. So you can do whatever you prefer to do. You can either create one report that covers 3 users, or you can create 3 reports that have 1 user's worth of data on each report. It's really whatever's most convenient. Me personally, I would think that just creating 1 report with 3 users would be the best way to do that. So for web usage, which is a specific thing, I would build an export for that. So dashboard exports. And then I would add an export. I would do a detailed export, so it's like a full list. I want to know every website that these guys visited for the last 3 days. I would call this, maybe we'll do this weekly. Let's call this weekly website report or export. Click Next. Choosing what you want on here. So I could choose all of these data points, but to make it very specific, I'm going to just do which websites were visited. Website activity, websites. Click Next. And then per your question, you can either do everybody, or you could just do a group of people, or you could just do the 3 people that you're most interested in. How often do you want to receive this report? I think weekly is good. It's going to come to you every Monday morning before you get to work. I think it comes in around 2:30 a.m. usually. For this one, you're going to always want to do an Excel spreadsheet just because of the amount of data, and it's in a list. And you can sort that list if you wanted to with an Excel spreadsheet. PDF's just more graphical in nature, so it's the best one to do for this. Obviously, you add your email address here. Know that you can have a recipient that maybe manages a specific group of people just receiving that data and have that data sent directly to them. Maybe a manager that manages this group of people would really benefit from knowing what websites they're going to. Well, add yourself and them, or just them, and send it to them. I think the value also in the software is getting this info to the people that would benefit from it, not just yourself being able to log in and see the data. Obviously, for a smaller shop, that's a little bit different, but for larger companies, that's the real value. And then do next and finish, and then you would be all set. So that's how you would create that. Another question, how does the agent affect computer resources in memory? So it's really not going to affect computer usage to any noticeable amount. If it did, we would have many more people come to us with that problem. We have people with hundreds and thousands of licenses, and it's just not a place that gets impacted. One of the reasons why is because it sits on the endpoint. So it's not like this is a piece of hardware that's requiring a computer to be rerouted through something else. It sits on the computer. All of this data is captured at the endpoint as it's happening, and then it sends up this information into the cloud, but the size of the files that are descending are literally a matter of bytes. Sometimes it's a few letters, sometimes it's just a sentence or a paragraph. It's very, very small size files. So it's not uploading tons of data as it's happening, which means it's not slowing down the performance of the computer really at all. So yeah, so that's something you don't have to worry about. When using a browser, does the agent contact the cloud every time, or does it run locally, and is there latency involved? It's a good question. So it does ping the server in the sense that it's checking that master list, but as far as how it's doing the filtering, it is referring to a master list that the software has access to that's always being updated. And so, yes, it does that. As far as does it impact performance on website, no, it really doesn't at all. And again, that has to do with many filtering tools are going to work through a proxy or a piece of hardware. They're rerouting traffic to a specific location. Because this takes place on the actual computer and it happens the second that they look for this website, it's instantaneous. I mean, it's not impact that web performance at all. So regardless of browser, you're still going to be able to use the main browsers, Chrome, Internet Explorer, Firefox, and block whatever websites you need to. So yeah, and then I think that's it for questions. Those are some great questions, guys. Anybody have anything else? I'm sure you guys could have typed if you did, but what I'll say is that, again, my name is Bill Evans. All of you guys are more than welcome to reach out to me directly with any follow-up questions, or if you want to schedule a time to walk through your account, I will make sure either myself or somebody that I work with gets right back to you, and we can get something on the calendar. We always want to just make sure that you're getting the most out of the account that you have and the licenses that you have. My contact info, if you didn't have it, is 203-307-2941, or you can always just email me back at B for my first name, Bill, and then my last name, Evans, E-V-A-N-S, at awareness-tech.com. All right, very good, guys. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to walk through it. I really do appreciate it, and hope this helps, and hope to talk to you guys soon.